Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's session on Retrieval Augmented Generation, the future of enterprise AI. Okay, at Skillame, we believe in empowering organizations, right knowledge, skills, and frameworks to stay ahead in this rapidly evolving digital world. Partner with global institutions, thought leaders, and subject matter experts to deliver impactful learning and development solutions across technology, leadership, and future-ready skills. It is my immense pleasure to introduce today's subject matter expert, Mr. Aman. Mr. Aman is a corporate AI enablement leader and Gen AI learning architect with 30 plus years of experience across Microsoft, Oracle, HP, and HCL. His works his work focuses on designing strategies to integrate AI solutions across enterprises, driving innovation and enabling seamless adoption of generative AI. He has delivered transformative AI training and enablement programs at organizations such as Godrej Industries, Crompton Greaves, Paperboat, and many more, and has also been invited to share his insights on AI ethics and governance with global leaders, including the ambassador of France to Sri Lanka. With this unique blend of real world corporate experience and deep expertise in generative AI adoption, Mr. Aman brings both practical and visionary perspectives to today's discussion. So we are delighted to have him lead this session for us. So yes, Mr. Aman, so over to you. You are on mute, Mr.
Yep. Yep. So good afternoon. And are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, wonderful. And thank you so much, Naveen. And thank you so much to all the participants who give me a chance to kind of express what little I might know in this field. And when I say little, it's literally, it's an ocean. I mean, wide, deep, and there's so much of development which keeps happening on a daily basis that it's almost impossible to catch up. So there were these times when, I mean, yep, I have this IT background, which I will just give a little background about. So started my career way back in 1990 with HCL Limited of those days, and was selling hardware and even high-end HP 9000 precision architecture, risk-based servers, etc. From there, I kind of moved on to software because hardware was becoming a commodity. I'm more into value selling. And then the journey kind of completely moved on over to Oracle, where I used to sell Oracle applications, Microsoft Consulting, so on and so forth. Some point of time, I realized I wanted to do something of my own, as in something which was very close to my heart, and I wanted to kind of take a leap of faith. And it was literally a leap of faith because once I did that, I mean, failed miserably and then kind of got back into corporate and learned the ropes. And well, that is what I do nowadays on a daily basis. So I bring in that years and years of experience. And also, I do a lot of reading. But despite whatever we do, it's so difficult. So what do? We do things step by step. Let me just share my screen and we discuss as we kind of move on. Just give me a moment. I will share my full screen. Okay, and yeah, the video is off. Okay, good enough, right? Perfect. So welcoming all of you for this session on RAG. What is RAG now? We have been hearing about generative AI, and all of a sudden we have something very different. We have had things in terms of agentic AI. We have got RAG. Now, RAG is not something which is very new. It has been there for a while now, but there is a difference in the way we look at things. Now, to understand RAG better, why do we have RAG? What can RAG do? So on and so forth. I'm going to take a step back and understand generative AI. Now, by far and large, I'm sure you would have heard about or you would have worked on models. It could be a chat GPT or a Copilot by Microsoft or a Gemini by Google, so on and so forth. So what's the idea over here? What is RAG going to do? So you see this subheading, which says how AI learns to look up before answering. Look up is the key word. Of course, it's can be changed, but the idea is looking up before answering. Okay, so let's kind of move on. Right. The agenda, of course, is very simple. A little bit of generative AI, and challenges related to AI, generative AI is hallucinations, and we'll understand what is hallucinations. The second aspect is the title for today is RAG. What are the key components, benefits, and when we talk about any of these, how do your databases also change? Now, I'm not going to do a deep dive technical thing. I'm going to be only at the surface, but it is important for us to know that when we talk of a database, why not the earlier database? Why not a new database or a different database like a vector database instead of a relational database? And the search also is in terms of the different types of searches that we come across. I will give you a lot of examples as we move on. So I'm going to take it in a very layman's way. Okay, good. So generative AI. Now the idea here is we know generative AI in its form. The very fact is, why do we call it generative AI? Is because, I mean, it's there on the screen, generates. It is designed to generate text. I should have added to it. It is designed to generate images, pictures, audio, so on and so forth, right? That is it. Pre-trained. So the model undergoes extensive training, which is why they're known as large language models, where there is a lot of training that has gone into it. And no matter what, whatever we build today, whatever, it might be a building, it might be a bridge, it might be a dam, anything that we might build has an architecture. Even software has an architecture. What should go where? How should we build the software? So on and so forth. Now, what happens in this case? In this case, the architecture primarily which is used is the transformer architecture, right? So, in short, while we say Chat GPT, even a Copilot is a GPT. Even a Gemini is a GPT because all of these models generate responses. They are pre-trained and they're based on the transformer architecture. So far, so good. If you have any questions, just unmute and let me know. Right. Okay. The next step is by far and large, I ask, okay, so you are using a particular model. What do you generally use? Oh, I use a chat GPT. Oh, very good. Okay. And what do you do for images? Oh, chat GPT. What do you do for this? Chat GPT. Now, the idea is while chat GPT is able to do many things, it cannot do all the things. I'll just give you an example. Like, say, for example, when we talk of a four-wheeler, generically, a four-wheeler is a generic name. But at the same time, when we do it in parlance with AI, the generic name is generative AI. But a four-wheeler has a brand, isn't it? It's from a particular brand, it has got a model. So, say, for example, now I go a step below and I'm going to say BMW. Now, what happens? It tells me immediately that, oh, it's a luxury sedan, right? Likewise, there is a brand associated when I talk about a BMW. In the world of GPT, which is a higher level, Copilot, Gemini, ChatGPT are all brands by different companies. But the similarity ends here because when we talk of a BMW, can it carry 50 or 100 passengers? It cannot. Can it carry cargo? It cannot. So what does it mean? It is specialized for luxury driving, but it is not attuned for cargo or multiple passengers, for which we have another four-wheeler, which is known as a bus or a tempo, another four-wheeler, which is known as a truck. So when you say, I'm going to use a chat GPT for everything, it cannot give you the answers because it is not trained to give you all the answers, right? This is the background. And this is the P part. The pre-trained is exactly the problem that we come across. When why do we have RAG is because of the pre-trained. So does it mean we should not train it? No, it's not that. that there is a training required. Okay, good. Now we move on to the problems associated with the vanilla AI or the basic LLMs. Okay, so what happens over here? Knowledge limitation, trained only on the past data. Now let's make it very simple. So assuming a child attends school and he comes or she comes back from school and the parents ask, okay, what did you learn? Oh, I learned addition. Oh, very good. You learned addition. So tell me, what is 1 plus 1? The child will say 1 plus 1 is 2. Very good. Clap, clap, clap. Right? Okay, good enough. Now, what happens is this the parents ask, okay, tell me something where what is 3 multiplied by 5? The child looks around and the child doesn't know what is multiplication because the child has not been trained. Point number one, trained only on past data. Child has not been trained. So he'll look around. Smart child, what will it do? Either he'll say, I do not know, or he'll say 3 multiplied by 5 is maybe he's learned numbers till 8. So it's 3 multiplied by 5 is 8. So what happens? Unreliable or recent events on niche topics, unreliable output. The child either says, I do not know, or the child is smart. So he says 3 multiplied by 5 is 8. Okay. This is where the problem happens, right? Okay, good enough. So even in LLMs, when you ask a particular question, but the large language model has not been trained. And here, my friends, we are not talking of training in bits and pieces. We are talking in terms of training those models in gigabytes or terabytes. There is humongous volumes of data which go into the training, right? Now, obviously, you cannot train it completely. Like, say, for example, it is impossible to train a model or even us into everything. So let's take an example. In school days, we were taught 1 plus 1 is 2. Who taught you? Who taught me 100 plus 100? Nobody taught us. So what happens? We learn by ourselves, right? Based on past experience, based on past knowledge, we put 1 and 1 together. No pun intended over here. But that is how we put 1 and 1 together and say, oh, 100 plus 100 is 200. Nobody teaches us that part. Right? So the exact same thing happens when we talk about a generative AI or any AI for that matter. This is how it learns. Okay. Now, say, for example, in this particular case, there could be another problem. The child has not been taught 3 multiplied by 5. Okay. The next day, the child goes to school and now he or she has been taught multiplication. Right? Okay. Good enough. So the teacher, by mistake, now he's been taught. First, he was not taught, so he said, I do not know, or 3 multiplied by 5 is 8. Now he goes to school and he has been taught. Now what happens? Multiplication. The teacher is teaching 3 multiplied by 5, and the teacher gets a call, right? And for some reason, they are talking about maybe just random. They're talking about a date for a holiday. She's talking with her family about a date for holidays. So she says, children, 3 multiplied by 5. And he says, just one moment. He answers, oh, when do we have to go? 14th, right? We will go on a holiday on 14th. She's talking on the phone. Very ad hoc, random example which just came to mind. And she says, 14 is the holiday I'm having. So let's go on 14. Children hear it. Children do not know. Children, what do they say? 3 multiplied by 5 is 14. Now see what has happened. The child has learned 3 multiplied by 5, but incorrectly. And this, my friends, is nothing but hallucination. What happens when you give a wrong input, the output is going to be incorrect. So these are the challenges associated with the knowledge limitation. And the very fact, now we come to point number 2, is all about it cannot access real time or external information. There is no way. It tells you what it only knows. And this is a big problem. So, hallucination. What happens? Generates reasonable answers, but incorrect. Why do we say reasonable? So 3 multiplied by 5, it will not say 50,000. It will fake it. Because the overall training which has been given to all these models is the fact that you have to keep motivating people. You cannot generally say that I do not know, right? These are big time limitations which these models have been trained upon, right? So it is like give some answer. Now, when you talk about something like tell me something about India, maybe it might generically tell you. But when it comes to formulas, when it comes to numbers, they cannot change, right? The numbers have to be exact. And if the incorrect information is incorrect, incorrect output. So it gives you a response, but something which you can digest. But at the same time, you do not know the facts. This is problem number one. What happens? This can mislead users in real world scenarios. Now, what is the real world scenario? We always know the word. Now, in today's world, we know some of the big challenges related to social media. We end up maybe on an Instagram or maybe a Twitter or maybe a Facebook, etc. It could be any social media. What do we believe? We believe what information has been fed to us. It is almost impossible for us to check what is the reality. So if a political leader said something, we will believe it. So it is the world is divided between narratives. What we do is a lot of people do not know the facts, which is why they'll go ahead and spread incorrect information. This is what is happening. And which is why we also have to go ahead and spread across our narrative. Like, say, for example, what happened in, say, Pahalgam. This has meanings to that, right? Hallucination. So when what happened, the unfortunate thing which happened in Pahalgam, what happened? If we keep quiet, somebody else might go ahead and tell the world that, oh, this happened, that happened, etc., etc., and we keep quiet. So the world does not know. It will start believing that country which created this problem. So what do? We also go ahead and explain our narrative that, oh, it was not that. This is the fact. What happens when we keep quiet? People start hallucinating. Now, you know what really happens in the real world? Well, so this is the real world situation. Okay. Obviously, it's going to be a major risk for business and critical decisions. You want to invest in a stock, you get wrong information. You invest, the prices drop, you lose money because incorrect information has been fed. Good. So far, so good. Okay. Now, what really happens? The context is not there. So let's also break this down. Now, the idea is there is no connection to user specific documents or data. So assume that a person is locked up in a room with whatever knowledge that person had, whatever training he or she had, locked up in a room. There is no connection with the real world. And if the person is told to say something, he or she will say something which is something very different, right? Okay. Um, I was just reading somewhere where, by far and large, related to maybe the number of moons, the largest number of moons which a planet has. My understanding was Jupiter. It has the largest number of moons. Where did this information come from? It came from a time when I was in school, maybe 4 decades ago. It was a correct information, right? But in the last 4 decades, a lot of research has happened in astronomy. And today, what we realize is it's Uranus which has got the largest number of moons, or maybe Saturn. I'm not sure, one of those, right? So what happens? Even though I was taught correctly, that information is 4 decades old. So I would say, oh, Jupiter. So I say Jupiter, you will go ahead and you will say, oh, Jupiter. But if you check it out on a different site, maybe NASA, you check it out on NASA, NASA will say, oh, the planet with the largest number of moons is Uranus, right? So this is the part where we start talking about retrieval augmented generation. Okay, so good. It limited ability to provide detailed context. Contextual is also very important. When you talk on a subject, all of a sudden, say, for example, I tell you, oh, that movie was great. You should go and watch the movie. You will wonder what really happened. We were talking about RAG and generative AI. And what's this thing about the movie, Aman? I mean, are you okay? What happens? I suddenly started talking non-contextual. So in the way we interact as human beings, what do? We say, hey guys, by the way, I'm talking about Gen AI, RAG, etc. By the way, last night I saw the movie, etc., etc. What happens? I'm changing tracks. I'm saying, by the way. So now I'm contextualizing that, by the way, I saw this movie. So this also happens when it loses context, Gen AI. Okay. And obviously, when you talk about this, when you do not have something very solid, this is the basic aspect of communication. Any communication for that matter. Now, this is not a class in communication, but the idea here is any communication has to be accurate. It has to be concrete. It has to be true. The moment you communicate something to somebody which is not accurate, concrete, real, true, etc., people lose confidence. And this is the challenge. Good? Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. So now we kind of move on. Good. So enter RAG. Now I told you I'm going to give you a lot of analogies, and here is the analogy. So let's kind of look at it. The idea here is in terms of retrieval augmented generation, simple or a powerful recipe. So what is it? Part by part. Retrieval. Retrieve something, right? So the idea is to find the right knowledge. One, I have some knowledge, but before telling that to you, I will confirm the facts. Number one. So I will align my knowledge, my information, with something that is factual. Number one. Augmented. What does augmented mean? Simple English word. When you augment something, you add to it, you complement it. So add it to the AI's context. You stay contextual and you do this part, right? So you augment on it. So it's typically kind of a synergy where you know so many things and you add to it something which is accurate, true, concrete. So it's going to be a synergy. It's going to give you a great output. Generation, crafting the final answer. Here is where comes in the power of generative AI, right? Because generative AI is able to do all these things very well. When you say craft the final answer, you might say, I want it in a particular tone. I want it in a particular format. That format could be bullet points and sub bullet points. That format could be a table. That format could be maybe an Excel sheet, a PowerPoint presentation. It could be anything, right? Then comes the tone. I want a tone which is very diplomatic. I want a tone which is straightforward. I want a tone which is whatever you might say, humorous, so on and so forth, right? So the good part about real knowledge coupled with some of the great advantages what we see in generative AI is about all about that content one and one together. So what happens? Here you have a chef in a restaurant, but the chef keeps forgetting a lot of things. Chef keeps forgetting. So what will he do? He has knowledge, he has information, but he keeps forgetting. So the dish that he prepares may not be completely up to date. It will be a good dish, but it may not be the one which the diners would want. Now, instead of that, he has got access to the pantry. Like, say, for example, the MasterChef Australia, which I used to see a lot. So, what happens in that case? They have knowledge, they have information of how to bake or prepare a lot of dishes. They have that information. And then what happens? They have the pantry available. So just in case they have missed something, picking up something initially, they can always run to the pantry and get that thing out. Add to it if the chef has also been given a cookbook, a recipe book. So what happens? The chef is preparing that, but the chef is very forgetful. And yes, when I say forgetful, generative AI is also very forgetful. I will come to it in a moment. So the chef, you say something. He forgets. So he opens a recipe book and says, oh, okay. Oh, I'm like, my God. I mean, I missed this part. Like I needed to have maybe mozzarella cheese, and he's not got that. So what happens? He runs to the pantry, picks up mozzarella cheese, and gets it. Now, the final experience for the by diners will be top notch. Good. Okay. This is the thing. But assuming there is no cookbook, there is no pantry, what happens? The recipe will not be top notch. He will use some other recipe, etc. Good. Okay. So all this is shifting, and basically ChatGPT, or it could be a Copilot, Gemini, anything for that matter, alone is equal to a smart chef with memory gaps, keeps forgetting. Now, ChatGPT plus Retrieval Augmented Generation is a smart chef with a well-stocked pantry and maybe even a cookbook or a recipe book. So the result, what do you get? Accuracy, trust, relevance, right? Now, are you able to combine both of them together, Gen AI as well as RAG? Okay, this is the way it happens. So, welcome finally, after so much of a little background, welcome to the world of RAG. Okay, so what is it? I've already explained, but now let's drill down into it. It combines data retrieval plus AI generation. I mentioned the real time data, accurate data, plus the leveraging the power of generative AI for various tasks. That is the background. So delivers accurate, context rich. It is contextual, and richness comes in from the latest information from large data sources, right? And the base is this: you can unlock a lot of insights, innovate, and grow. Now, here is an example which I'm going to give you. Say, for example, this is data related to some accidents happening in a factory. So, as a typical factory, what do you have? The date of the accident or the incident, we might call it. Injury location is a part of the body where somebody has got hurt. Gender, age is all fine. The type of incident, whether it could be a burn, it could be a cut, etc. The plant name, report type, when it says near miss, it could just be a minor scratch or a burn or something. Obviously, for that, the incident cost will be zero. Maybe a little bit of a band-aid might have helped. Okay, so nothing much. They don't even lose the number of days, which is zero over here. Incident cost is zero. This is minor. But assume 3.5 days lost over here. Obviously, it has to be something more. So it costs the company much, much more. Department shift, etc. Now, what do I do? All I do is, okay, incidentally, what I'm going to show you right now, or what I'm showing you is also AI. This AI is known as Edge AI, EDGE. What is Edge AI? So, assuming you have been to a store recently and you have maybe explored the possibility of buying a new mobile phone, what happens? They say, sir, this mobile phone, it has got four cameras, quad cameras, whatever they might say. And one more thing. This camera has got AI inbuilt. Now, what do you mean by inbuilt AI? So, in a phone like this, which might be a pretty much old phone, if I click a picture and the brightness is low, that's the output going to be. But in a newer phone, the new models, the camera realizes that using AI, it realizes that the brightness is low. It automatically by itself increases the brightness, alters the contrast, so on and so forth. So you do not have any post picture changes. Good enough? Okay. So any application which is inbuilt, any AI which is inbuilt into an application is known as Edge AI. So what am I going to do over here? I'm going to walk you through a little bit about Edge AI. Not that this is the topic, but to give you the context. So what I do over here, I don't shift select the entire data, which is running into, say, for example, 514 rows. It shows 5 and 5 minus the column header. So 514 rows of data. I'm here anywhere in the data. And all I do is click, analyze data. So see, you see it selected the entire data. It did that. Now it is analyzing. It says, ask me a question. So I will ask it a question. What is the total incident cost? Assuming the fact that I do not know Excel and I do not know is equal to sum, etc. So I will say, what is the total incident cost? What is it saying? 717795. Let's try it out. I go all the way down. I use a summation and I go here. It says 717795, right? So it gave me the right answer, right? But where could it go wrong? So I did this basic thing. Now I again try to do this analysis, and maybe I would say, okay, incident cost. I also want pivot tables, pivot charts, etc. So what do? Click, insert a pivot chart. Pivot chart gets inserted only after a pivot table. So it does this. Maybe I look at something else and I say gender, insert pivot chart. So it also does that beautifully, right? Things are so far so good. Here it says gender male accounts for the majority of the days lost. So male is 322 days, female is 56 days, total is 378 days lost. Right. But when we look at the safety data, what happens? This is the problem. The information which was provided to me till 28th June 2022 was absolutely perfect. But there is no information captured in this since the last 3 years. Of course, this is a hypothetical database. So what happens? All the information which I have got is information which is inaccurate. It has hallucinated because males account for the majority of the days lost is hallucination when it compares to the real world scenario where the information would have changed. Now, assuming when I look at this database and prior to doing this analysis, which I did, the right hand side, each time that I open Excel, it connects to the corporate data, the factory data every day. I've set something, assuming that every time I open it, it first connects, gets updated data, and refreshes the data. And now when I do the analysis, it gives me the right analysis. So the earlier part was analysis. Now it can be considered as retrieval augmented generated analysis, RAG, right? So this is what happens. People don't want to do things deliberately. They don't want to mess up deliberately. But the idea is if they have not been taught the latest, we'll still have the older information. Okay, good. Let's move on. And I hope you are able to get a better understanding. So we have done it so far. Now I'm getting into some of the key components at a high level. So what happens? One is a vector database. Vector database. Now, what is vector database? Hey, I've heard about databases. I've heard about a relational database, so on and so forth. What is vector database? Yep. So we will look a little bit into the databases also. Just one slide on a database. I'm not going to go in the depths of that, right? Okay. So here, what do? We have a vector database. Just give me a moment, right? Okay. So here we have a vector database which stores and retrieves data by semantic meaning. Oh my God, Aman, please, vector database, semantic. Well, okay, I'll explain it in one particular slide. Okay. Then what you have is you have a query processing system. What is that? It understands query using what? NLP, which is natural language processing plus machine learning together. Right? Very complex? No problems. Before I move forward, let me give you an example of putting NLP and machine language together. Okay. So here I go. And maybe I have a new slide here. And here I will say, maybe let me change this to title and content. Now, what am I going to do? I click on dictate. This is a session about retrieval augmented generation, which takes forward the aspects related to vanilla generative AI aspects and takes it forward to something which can be Okay, well, I just stopped it. Okay. What you see? I dictated. This is what natural language. It processed a natural language. And what processed it? There is ML over here, machine learning. Machines learn. So what happened? The microphone learned with the software. Along with that, it learned understanding natural language. And this is how it processes. Now, what is the advantage over here is the fact that, say, for example, we do not have to get into details ourselves. So if I just get into this, and assuming the power I'm showing you, the NLP, which is natural language processing put together with machine learning, I want the state over here for which I will have to write a VLOOKUP formula. VLOOKUP, by far, people get very confused. So what happens? What is a problem over here? So here I have the city, but I have the state missing. Is that fine? Good. I also have the full listing of cities and states. So how does VLOOKUP work over here? First, if we have to do it, what will I do? I want the state in column D. So what will I do? I will first check the city. Find the city. Go up and down and find where is Ludhiana. Find Punjab, populate Punjab. Likewise, I will do it for everything else. So here, if I have to write a formula, I will say VLOOKUP, click, comma, select, comma, 2, comma, 0. I close this. I've been doing it for some 12, 15 years now. So I can do it in sleep, right? Okay. But if one has to do this part without knowing that there is a VLOOKUP, what will I do? I will go into ChatGPT. In an Excel sheet, I have got a list of columns where column C has got the city name, but the column D, which has got to have its corresponding state name, is missing. In the same Excel sheet, I also have columns which are F and G, which contain the entire list of cities and the corresponding states. Tell me, what should I do? Natural language, converted that to this. I haven't used even a single time. I have not used the word VLOOKUP. It gives me a formula. I copy the code. I go over here, Control V. It gives me Punjab. There we go. This is the power of NLP along with machine learning. So going back, what do? We talk over here and we talk about query processing system. So I just explained a powerful way to ask queries using NLP and machine language. And the third aspect is context enhancement layer, where it enhances result with deeper context and external sources. The important part here is stay relevant, but be contextual. So what are the business benefits? Obviously, higher accuracy, responses are much faster, and better context. So how does it work? You ask a question, AI searches a library. This library is a vector database. Now I'll just explain quickly what is a vector database. Say, for example, over here itself, I will say a new slide, title and content, and maybe let me introduce this. Number of rows, columns is all fine. And here, what will I do? I will say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if I have to ask it how many rows are there, it'll tell me one row. Of course, this is the column header. Let's ignore. How many rows? One row. Can you add up all the numbers? So it will say good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because this data is structured data. Numbers, because they are broken down into binary. One will have a binary code, 1011001110 or something like that, right? All of that. It understands all these things. But if I draw something, say, for example, over here, just give me a moment. I'll draw something and maybe just give me a moment. a horrible diagram related to two mountains. And now I know you'll say, oh, this is a mountain. But yeah, kids will draw it this way, right? I'm no good than a kid when it comes to drawing. Well, so on the right hand side, what you have is two mountains. You got sun coming from between. And here you have something scribbled. Now, how does this differ if you have to check out, find me an image of a scribbling done by a child for mountains? How does it find it? So this data is what we have over here is binary data. Here, what you have is semantic. And in semantic data, you cannot associate numbers. So what happens is you make connections where, say, for example, over here you have a river and you have some mountains. So what is it? What is closely related? The mountain, the peak, you will associate vectors, numbers to it. So this height, when you check it, resembles with this height. So the number is very similar to this. They will associate a number. This height versus this height. Sun versus the sun. But there is no river in this particular case. There is no river. But here there is a river. So the difference will be very high between two numbers. So assuming a number is 1 and the other number is 1.1, there is a similarity. It's how it finds it. But if the number is 1 and the other number is 5, which means it's very, very different. Like, say, for example, a hen and a chicken, close relation. So they'll have a closer number, but a hen and a lion will be a part of the same thing because it's all a part of birds and animals. So it will not be very different. But yes, it cannot be as close in a number as a hen and a chicken, right? So that is the way semantic databases work. So it searches a library or a vector and retrieves the right passages and does this, right? So in a very simple manner, generative AI, what you do, what I do in a chat GPT, say, for example, we are the users. What do? We give a prompt. Good. What does it do? It goes into the trained data. It generates using a generator. Give me this font, give me that font, give me this, etc., right? And then what do you have is you have a response. The only difference between this and generative, and I wouldn't say only because it's fairly complex, but I'm trying to make it very simple to you, simple for you, right? It gets a response this way. In RAG, what happens? You have all of these, but you have two things extra, which is data retrieval, where it goes to a large data source, searches, gets this response, retrieves it, goes here, generates, and then gives a response. Now, does it mean we have to use RAG all the time? Not really. RAG can be used. Okay, so here it is, your vanilla AI. Tell me about the latest HR policies. So it is a sorry, I do not know, but it's never been trained. So it makes up the rules, it hallucinates, gives you wrong information. But with RAG, it goes, checks the internal, the intranet, and searches for that information, finds that information, contextualizes, it gives you accurate and trustworthy information. Now, when we talk about a search, I'm not going into details of this. Here, what happens, a traditional search is word to word. Find me, say, for example, anything which is related to A or begins with an A or ends with Z. Okay, all find me names which begin with X, as in Xavier, right? All of those things. But the idea is when it does not, there are no text, and by far and large, what we have today is, say, for example, I could give a search over here, image of a child image of a child wearing a blue shirt. How does it find this? It's not a number. And which is why it associates anything which is a slightly grayish blue is also related closely. But these two images which you see could be far more related because the colors are very, very similar, right? So this is semantic search. Next, moving on, your relational database, tables, rows. Here you have vectors. Here, in this case, what we have been doing so far, you have structured data, rows, columns, Excel, yeah, all of these. Here you have unstructured, completely unstructured or semi-structured data. Here we talk about exact match. Here you not work on exact match. Here you work on similarity. What is similar? And transaction structure reporting. Here it is based on AI ML. I just spoke to you about ML. I also spoke to you about semantic. Now, say for example, if you have to write a prompt without RAG, ideally it doesn't work this way, but just hypothetically. So if you write a prompt using without RAG, you rely on its known knowledge. You have to be mindful about it. Example, summarize the latest HR policies for remote work. The problem, it might hallucinate, give outdated information because that information could have changed or miss details. But if you write a prompt with external knowledge, what happens? You give it a context saying that knowledge base, you tell it to check on documents, PDFs, websites, so on and so forth. System flow in RAG, it fetches the relevant HR documents and then generates the right answer. Using the following HR document, summarize the key updates, right? And this is how now the model is anchored. So it's not as simple as I say, because there is an entire thing related to implementation. It is not out of the box. So why it matters for employees? No more wasting hours in searching files. What is the challenge? Even for me as an individual, what happens? When I have to search for a file, there's a humongous amount of time that gets into it. But if I give a search, it can search my computer and get me the relevant file much better, right? The second is for managers. It's all about quickness. Today's world is all about quick decisions, etc., and reduced errors. Decisions fast, almost zero errors is the name of the game. The third is unlock hidden PDFs, PPTs in the system, because there is so much of information in every organization, nobody knows where it is. And which is why so many years ago, we had something known as knowledge-based system. But even KM systems had their limitation because it could not get into everything and search and give you a contextual information. KM systems will give you, say, for example, I found this file in 50 PCs in the organization. So you had to get into individual files and then read them. This takes it a matter beyond. It opens all the 50 files, find the relevant information, compresses it, summarizes it, creates charts, graphs, what you want from that 50 things, ensures there is no repetition, so on and so forth. So it's going up beyond, right? So what could be the use cases? It can be used as a knowledge assistant. It can be customer support. So when we talk about customer support and assuming somebody says, where exactly is my shipment right now, right? What happens? Oh, your shipment is on the way, because that was based on the information I received yesterday. And between yesterday and today, 24 hours have elapsed. So imagine this system, which gives you contextual information, is connected with maybe the database which has the exact location of the truck right now. Imagine that. You can say the truck right now, as if what we get in Swiggy and Zomato, right? Your meal is coming to you in the next 7 minutes, and it comes in that 7 minutes, right? So when you ask a query, it exactly connects with the rider who's getting your meal at that point of time and says he or she is here. That is the importance, rather than saying, I think so. Training and learning, personalized information, right? Guidance, etc. Compliance is a big thing. We talk about, say, for example, when we talk about privacy and data privacy laws, what happens? There are so many laws, like, say, for example, California Consumer Protection Act, CCPA, or EU's is GDPR, Singapore is PDPA. Now, if I am going to transact with a particular customer, I am based in India, but the customer is based in Singapore or based somewhere in the EU, then I need to be adhering to the GDPR or PDPA laws. Not just because I am based in India, it doesn't apply. It does apply. Now, what does it do? It connects with the GDPR or PDPA systems and tells me, Aman, this is what you need to include because in the last 15 days, there is a revision to GDPR and this is what you need to incorporate. See the difference? Else I would be talking about a GDPR clauses which might be 6 months old. Research and reports summarize large documents in minutes. So in a simplest way, what it can happen, you have a system where you can now look at, say, for example, in this case, what will I do? I will say a new chat, and maybe I upload a document, and whatever is that document, like say, for example, session 1 assessment MCQs. Okay. And I will now say in this document, how many questions are there? Ah, see, 10 questions total, correct? This by far, my friends, is the most, what do you say, primitive way or the basic way which RAG works. This is RAG in the most basic manner, where it referenced this document rather than throwing up a number that, oh, any document which has got pre-assessment has got 15 questions. No, it found this. And when I open this document, it will have 10 questions, right? So if we go over here and we check it out, it should be here. I just created this pre-assessment, right? How many do you have? You have 10 questions, right? So this is the way in which you can look at it. Now, if you want to implement, implementation is a very, very extensive system. It's not a plug and play. And which brings us to the fact that which are the popular tools? Oh, these are all the popular tools that you have when you talk about RAG implementation. It's not out of the box. It's not connecting to wires. Okay, that is it. The future, AI that knows you, it knows your organization. It does not forget you. Assuming you and I, we have met, what happens that next time we meet, hey, hi, how are you? Hey, by the way, last time when we met and we were having coffee, you said you had to rush and you said you were going for the movie. How was that movie? We remember. But imagine you do this in a chat GPT where you have asked this question and you start a new chat and you say, how many questions did the document have? Unless it has got it in its memory, see what happens. Could you please upload or paste the document? It's forgotten. This is exactly what happens, right? That when you start a new chat, it does not know you. It's like you and me, we are meeting for the first time. This is a big problem, forgetfulness, right? So what happens is when you have such systems, you have got AI that knows you. It knows what you have done. It gives you role-based answers, always up to date, etc., etc. The future is all about reshaping enterprise access, accuracy, staying competitive, information right now, right? And relevant contextual information. A split second delay in getting that information could mean a loss or whatever you might say in the stock market. We're talking about milliseconds, microseconds today, right? Growing role in decision making. You make decisions based on factual information. Applications, you name it. I've just given a few. Integration with large data sets, big data, or you say blockchain, all these emerging technologies that you have, and scalable systems. So with that, I end this session, 3:55, on time, 5 minutes for Q&A. I will stop sharing.
Any questions from the participants? You can use the chat. So we have 5 more minutes.
So in the meantime that you ask questions, this is going at a pace where it's impossible to catch up. Copilot does not know. In the most basic way, none of them have RAG inbuilt. There is no RAG inbuilt, and which is why when I talked about this, I will just tell you the details. Just give me a moment. So one moment, I'll just say. So Microsoft, Copilot is by Microsoft. So Microsoft has something known as Azure AI Search. That is what ideally you should be looking at. By default, none of them have got RAG inbuilt. You can do these minor tweaks where you upload a document and say, read through the document, give me information. It'll do that. That's the most primitive way. But here we are not talking of a particular document. Here we are talking of huge data sets where everything is constantly changing. Like say, for example, if you are in the stock market, right? You can't upload one document. Are we going to receive the materials in the recording? I think so, Naveen. So maybe you might just want to answer this.
Yes, yes. We'll be sharing the recording by tomorrow to all the.
Perfect. Okay, great. Right. So the only thing is now, and honestly speaking, I mean, I have been in the tech world for 35 years. I've been fairly interested or largely interested in technology, etc. I'm not talking about bragging and everything, nothing. But today, and I love technology, but today when I read, I get scared because every day when I read something, I realize how little I know. There was a point of time I could do some catch up, but now it's impossible. So unless and you want to make a career out of it, you might be wanting to implement it in your organization. Every day there has to be some reading, at least 1 hour only on AI. Otherwise, literally, it's kind of going to be mind blowing. Yeah. So how can you ensure that the retrieved information is relevant and accurate? Very good question. Because no matter what we do, we also have something known as testing. We always test it, A/B testing, etc., whatever we might be having. So let's keep AI separate for a moment, assuming I'm creating a dashboard in Excel, right? Data to pivot tables to pivot charts to a dashboard using slicers. Even in that case, it is important that we recheck. So you do some sampling. You don't just look at it. The good aspect is when you tell it to find information from a particular document, it'll do it well. The only time when it hallucinates is the fact when it does not know. It will never come and tell you that I do not know. Even if you give that information as a prompt saying that you have to be very candid, etc., the the training it has received will be you always have to motivate people. This is something you have to be mindful, and this has caused a problem where a teenager in the US committed suicide because the teenager said, give me ways to commit suicide, write a commit note, and it said, oh, very good, you're doing so well, you're so brilliant, etc., etc. And the teenager committed suicide. These are the negative aspects of AI which we have to be mindful. How do we know which AI is RAG enabled? There will be no AI that will be RAG enabled. You will have to check for it depending on whether you are using it on a personal level. If you're using on a personal level, it is not RAG enabled. Unless you upload a document and say, summarize this document, summarize this YouTube transcript, then it is fine. Then it'll just go by it, right? If you're in a corporate, you have to check with your IT team, etc., which RAG, if at all, it has been enabled. You have to check that.
Okay, I think we'll respond back to the other questions since we are short of time. So thank you, Mr. Aman, for sharing such valuable insights on RAG and its role in shaping the future of enterprise AI. We hope today's session gave everybody practical takeaways and how RAG can transform enterprise knowledge management and decision making and innovation. So, on behalf of Skillame, I would like to thank all of you for joining us today. We look forward to partnering with your organizations on future learning journeys around generative AI and other emerging technologies. So, stay connected with us for upcoming webinars, workshops, and corporate training initiatives. So, wishing you all a great day ahead. So, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Rahman, for
Thank you so
the
much.
session.
Have a good day ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Bye.